Welcome to the Erectile Dysfunction Radio Podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to educating and empowering men to address erectile dysfunction, improve confidence, and enhance the satisfaction in their relationships. This podcast is brought to you by ErectionIQ.com. Learn more at ErectionIQ.com.
Welcome to the Erectile Dysfunction Radio Podcast. I am Mark Goldberg, certified sex therapist. I am deeply passionate about working with men like you to help resolve their ED.
We are back on ED Radio, Erectile Dysfunction Radio, and I am your podcast producer, Casey, joined again by our host, Mark Goldberg. Today, we're going to be discussing a bit of a different topic. We're talking about the thinking man's guide to understanding and addressing erectile dysfunction. This is an interactive web-based course available on ErectionIQ.com/course. And I want to know a little bit more about it. Mark, is this a substitute for seeing a professional or getting help with ED? What can you tell us about this course?
Great question, Casey. So erectile dysfunction is a medical condition. I want to emphasize that. It is a physical act. It is a physical process. First and foremost, it's a medical condition that needs to be assessed by a medical professional. And no course, in my opinion, can be a substitute for a proper evaluation. When I work with men one-on-one, one of the first questions I ask, and this is as a prerequisite for me being able to proceed and work with them, is if they have been medically cleared, meaning have they spoken to a medical doctor about what's going on? Has it been determined that they don't have underlying disease that isn't being addressed? They don't have other physical components that are going on? That, I believe, is a prerequisite to working with any mental health professional on erectile dysfunction or trying to improve erections, as well as any eCourse.
Thank you for clarifying that. I kind of suspected what the answer to that one might be, but I just wanted to ask it anyways to make it clear first and foremost. So tell us about the mission of this eCourse. Tell us about why you created the Thinking Man's Guide to Understanding and Addressing ED.
The mission of the eCourse, I think, ties into the broader mission of the podcast and ErectionIQ.com, which is to really change the way that people think about erections, the way they think about erectile dysfunction, and trying to educate the public, and certainly men who are struggling with erectile dysfunction, on the complexity of the process, how much might actually be going on, and how much power and control they have to make a significant difference and really be able to address erectile dysfunction as a whole and complete process. The eCourse has a specific purpose in its creation. The reason why I created it is because I was approached by a number of men who really wanted to understand what happens in the therapy process, what they can get out of it, but were uncomfortable to sit down and talk with me about their particular situation. So the idea of the eCourse is to provide a framework for men in terms of how to think about what goes into the erection process, how to self-evaluate. If we're going back to your first question, Casey, about whether this is a substitute for one-on-one work, I would say yes and no. I would say it's a substitute for the foundational pieces. This course is something that can really give you the framework for how to think about this on your own. And I do believe that some men are going to be able to utilize this course and really be able to make a significant impact on their erections by genuinely applying what is going on in their own lives, what goes on inside of their own heads, into this framework and really be able to resolve erectile dysfunction. Other men may have very specific things that a course is just not enough to be able to address, whether that's very specific things going on in their relationships or specific issues going on at their place of employment or other major life transitions or all sorts of particulars that the course simply cannot cover because they're unique and specific. In those instances, men may benefit far more from working one-on-one. That being said, if a man were to take this course and get that foundation, they may be able to much better identify what area they want to be focusing on in order to really improve erections. And they may end up saving themselves significant time and resources by being able to expedite their therapy process and get back to the working erections that they want.
Yeah, and some men, maybe they are hesitant to actually talk to someone. We've talked about that before on the podcast. Getting over that hurdle of actually having a face-to-face conversation with someone about these issues can be a bit of a mental hurdle. So this course kind of gives you an opportunity. Maybe it's a step before that where you can get a chance to kind of interactively assess where you're at in your ED journey. Is that fair to say?
I would say assess where you are in your ED journey, and this course can also help with those next steps. It really, there are tools, there's lots of pieces in there that men can potentially utilize this course to fully address their erectile dysfunction.
Mark, what can you tell us? Can you give us a preview of some of the modules that there's going to be in this course? Is there anything useful that you can tell us on today's podcast about what is involved in this course? Maybe give us some teasers or what we could anticipate learning if we do go ahead and sign up for it.
It's challenging unless you have it in front of you and you're seeing it, but I will try to do the best that I can. So the course takes men through a broadening assessment. And what I mean by that is it really starts with helping men to look at a multitude of situations of erectile dysfunction and really being able to figure out where they are. What is this manifestation of erectile dysfunction? When is it happening? What does it look like? Really helping them to walk through a proper assessment. The course then progresses to learning about the foundational tools of how to think about the erection process. And those tools carry on throughout the course to help men on their journey apply those tools and learn how to really incorporate them to ultimately make the erection process a whole lot better. The course discusses a multitude of mental health factors that can impact erectile dysfunction, a whole slew of sexual factors, relationship factors, and the course concludes with a number of practical tools that go along with these topics that we've been talking about throughout the course, and practical advice about how men can apply those tools to effectively address their erectile dysfunction.
Do you want to share with us any feedback you've gotten from men who have taken the course?
The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive to date. We have had men who have never been in therapy before. We have men who have been in therapy for years and learned new things about themselves and about their process by being able to examine a multitude of factors in a really short period of time. So we have heard from a range of men in terms of where they are in their process. We also have had men who have no underlying medical conditions that have taken the course, as well as men who have a slew of medical issues that, again, impact blood flow, but do not preclude the ability to get an erection, take this course. And both of those populations have found it extremely informative and have found the tools very, very helpful to be able to produce more consistent and more robust erections.
This course available now at erectioniq.com/course. Depending on when you are listening to this, the first module is free. So if you want to log on and test the waters a little bit and get a pretty substantial amount of the course for free, go ahead now and visit it I cannot speak for the future, so depending on when you are listening to this, that may or may not still be the case. But right now, as of the recording of this episode, we are offering that first module available for free right now. So again, erectioniq.com/course. Hopefully by the time you are listening to it, that first module is still available to be taken for free.
Thanks for listening to the Erectile Dysfunction Radio Podcast. For more information on today's topic and understanding how the mind impacts erectile dysfunction, please visit erectioniq.com. That's erectioniq.com.